Hi, everybody. And if you're just tuning in, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. You're watching or listening to Angel Rock. I'm your host, Lorilei Potvin. Just a little bit about the show. Tonight, we are not on YouTube. So if you're listening, please come over to Facebook. You can go to Twitch. You can go to Twitter, UFO Paranormal Radio, as well as on Twitch. Or if you follow me on Facebook, you can see on my profile or any of our United Public Radio Network Facebook pages such as UFO Paranormal Radio. There's News on the Flip Side, Joe Montaldo, and I believe it's UFO Undercover. I'm trying to remember the other ones, but you will be able to see us there. Again, look about my show. Excuse me, and who I am. If you've never been here before, if you're returning, thank you so much. I appreciate your support and I love having you here and would love to see your comments here so that we can make you part of the show this evening. I am a Canadian psychic medium. I'm a crystal Reiki energy healer, Akashic Records practitioner, spiritual teacher, and mentor, and I'm also a nurse. My show covers all aspects, I say, of the supernatural, anything from the paranormal to UFOs to ETs. And then we get into things about how to connect with your intuitive gifts, the power of the mind, connect with your spirit guides, mediumship, you name it, we cover it all here. We also do some truth seeking, and that's what we are going to be doing this evening tonight. I'm going to introduce my very special guest. She is a fellow Canadian. She's a fellow intuitive. She is also a healer. She has a quantum health transformation program. She is a podcaster and so much more. We work on a lot together. She was on my show well over a year ago. We thought it was high time we were on tonight. So let me welcome her. Welcome, Karen Holton.
Oh, thank you. That was lovely. Thank you so much. It's so good to see you again.
It is. I want to say hi. We've got Lena. Oh, Lena, please forgive me if I get your name pronounced incorrectly. Corvisiero, I will say, on Facebook. And then we've got Jeannie was on our paranormal host chat. You may have just been watching the wonderful Horsefly Chronicles with Julia and Philip Syracuse. They were just on before. So Jeannie is in the UK. Lena, you'll have to let us know where you are. I tried to highlight the comments. So they're at the bottom of the screen, Karen, if you can see them. Mm-hmm. Oh, she said I said it perfect. Good. Oh, hooray. That's Lena's last name. So tonight we're going to talk about a topic, and there's a reason why we're not on YouTube. And Karen and I work on this a lot off air. Is we're going to talk about what's going on in the world. We can only really speak from a Canadian perspective. Karen is in one of the western provinces, whereas I am in northwestern Ontario in a city called Thunder Bay, but it's kind of all around the world what's going on. So the first hour, we're going to discuss it. And then the second hour, we figure, Karen's very positive like I am. We want to talk about what can you do? What can you do so you feel better about this? What part can you play in this? Because we all need to come together on this, regardless of what side of the field we're on. Right, Karen?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, so absolutely.
Where do you want to start? You had some interesting videos. I mean, I have to tell you, I watched the video you uploaded today. You go for Karen. It's all about you. I mean, we talk about it. So where do you want to start?
Well, for those of you, those of your viewers who are not familiar with what I do, which actually I wear a few different hats, but one of them is between 2013 and 2015, I was willingly experiencing off-world experiences with beings that are actually intergalactic. And it was as big a surprise to me as anybody else. And it took me, along with those experiences, came a very strong message on how I needed to take care of my health and that I needed to produce the quantum health transformation program to share with other people so they would have that information too. Mm-hmm. But it took me nearly 2 years to really unpack all that information. So even though I was only gone for 3 months of our time, the experience felt like more like 3 years.
Wow.
And then it took me 2 years to unpack the program. But sort of that's my history. And then I had a very brief experience about 1.5 years ago. And I thought that was it. It was done. I've been working on my book from back in before 2015 and trying to get that finished. And lo and behold, about 3 weeks ago, I started having these training experiences. Mm-hmm. Now, they're not dreams because dreams, first of all, I hardly ever remember them.
Right.
Second to that, my dreams are very convoluted and they don't make a lot of sense because they're highly symbolic. This was actually a very linear experience for me, very, very vivid, very technical. And what usually happens is after I have an experience like this, it unfolds over time to a greater understanding of what I initially understood. But anyway, so the message was I got shown, I didn't know what it was at the time, but it was long strands and whole bunch of little circles stuck together and things like that. And I thought it was a technical diagram. I didn't know what it was. But
Right.
one thing that was really clear is my guides wanted me to remember 3 words. I got to remember what the 3 words were now. That's why I made the video right away. And it was thought control technology.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went, wow, okay. And they never share anything with me unless it's important. And I always, get it out there in a video, even if I don't understand it, because the way I look at it, that's part of my job, which I love. And so then a couple of days later, I saw, I think maybe you sent me the video by Spyro showing blood from before and after the medical procedure. I'm going to call it the medical procedure anyway, just so that that this doesn't offend
And
anybody
people
or
don't
any
know.
algorithms.
Yeah, people don't know we're talking about the jab, the talk everywhere around the world. I want to stop you just for a sec because
Sure.
there's going to be people. By the way, Lena says she's from Montana. Jeannie says, yes, Jeannie, you've been with us. Thank you for your support. We really appreciate you. The paranormal host chat. And she was watching Horsefight Chronicles before. Guys, I thought I fixed my audio issues. Jeannie, you know that I'm right close to my router, so let's hope it behaves itself. I thought it was because I type signed in, so hopefully this will settle down a little bit. Are you hearing any problems at all, Karen, on your end? A little bit choppy?
Loud and clear.
Oh, and if it's just me and it's not bugging anybody, because I did fix it. I had Skype on and not signed out. That was the issue the last couple of weeks, guys. But do you think you can explain to people just very briefly what the Quantum Health Transformation Program is? Because I think it's a really important piece in all of this.
It is more important today than ever before. I didn't dream of why it was laid out the way it was. Now it makes perfect sense. So it's a 9-step program. Each step, you take it actually in reverse order. I know it sounds weird, but you start with step 9, which builds a foundation for step 8, which builds a foundation for step 7. The program teaches you, it's basically 3 things. The first 3 lessons are to do with opening and expanding your mind and your thinking. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever looked online at Googled or whatever you use the words flea circus. Back in the 1800s and early 1900s, they used to have these circuses with trained fleas. No one could imagine how the guy achieved this. Well, he achieved it because he raised them multi-generational in small confined spaces. So they didn't know they could jump higher than a centimeter. They didn't know that they could go left or right. They could only go straight ahead. Well, we're in a modern version of the flea circus, so we don't know who we are and what we can do. That's been hidden. So the first 3 steps are to open your mind and help you to look at things from completely different perspectives. And it also includes shadow work, which a lot of people shy away from because it's yucky, right? And it includes our male-female integration, which is the energies on both sides of our body. This is all about energy. Anyway, skipping to the middle 3 sections or steps, that's detoxification. Because now some people are having trouble wrapping their mind around how the powers that be might not have our best interests at heart. Most of us have been asleep at one time or another, and we thought that the churches and the governments and the medical, all of that was to help take care of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we didn't realize what it really was, and we've been systematically poisoned and set up to be sick to support a fake medical system. So remember, there was the burning times, they got rid of all the witches and everything. Well, that wasn't because they were witches. Actually, it was because they were the healers. All the healers, the indigenous populations were the healers. You know, women have often had that sacred role. And it was also very much combined with what we ate as food. And so we were constantly healing ourselves from the earth because we're connected. People think a lot today about being connected to the heavens, but we also are very connected to the earth. So what we do is we spend quite a lot of time understanding how we've been poisoned. And I start with external, which is all our personal care products, our shampoos, our toothpaste, what we're cleaning the toilet with, what we're cleaning our house with. And more importantly,
I just want
nowadays.
to add one thing, Karen. Sorry.
Yeah.
I went out about
No, it's all
the
good.
products, and I just learned this a few years ago. Many of you may not be aware that they are not federally governed in any way, shape, or form. They could put whatever they want in there and nothing will happen. And this is pretty well in most developed countries, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And you would not believe the poisons you're getting in a lot of this, right, Karen?
Oh, absolutely. But step 6 is going to open your mind a lot. And then I give you recipes that cost pennies to make, will save you a ton of money. And you can use really good products that feel good and make you feel clean and good, and what you can use around your house. And it doesn't hurt anybody, doesn't hurt you, doesn't hurt your house, but it does a great job. Or what?
Or the environment.
Or the environment.
I can even tell you this. I was having a quick conversation, and I have one of those air fryers. And Dell, who's also on this network, the delicious recipe, he decided he was going to cook fish in it. And my son, I use it to cook his chicken nuggets and French fries because that's pretty well all he'll eat. With being autistic, well, it's going to be like fish. And I'm thinking, I don't have any oven cleaner. And I literally heard from Spirit, you don't want to be using that crap anyway. So what do? This is when Google is your friend when you need a recipe for stuff like this. I end up using, the lady made a list of 8 different natural things she put together and tried. And she rated what was the best. And she used, it's a teaspoon of hydrogen peroxide, teaspoon of soap. And you don't even have to use these chemicals. You could use if you had Castile soap or something natural. And then the third was baking soda. You would not believe how beautifully clean, no fumes, didn't burn anything, didn't burn my skin. And here we go, right, Karen? So, and
absolutely
products. So there's all kinds of natural stuff.
Absolutely. And it's not that people are stupid. It's just that a lot of us, you know, I grew up watching TV, and the ads, you know, are constantly working on our thinking and our minds. And then, of course, what's available at the supermarket, you know, millions of dollars have been put into, maybe billions, into the packaging that makes you want to buy their product. Well, there's 10 different products, and each of them have spent, you know, you go to the supermarket, I don't know about you, but I get real zoned out if I go down the aisles. It's just like you become entranced. What do you pick? You don't even know what you're picking half the time, right? That's all part of it. So then the second, actually step 6 is the only one that's divided up into about 3 lessons. Then the next one is how identifying what's real food. Most people don't even know what's real food. And I got to tell you, it's not easy having your eyes opened. Because ever since I discovered this information, I didn't just download it and transcribe it. I did research to see if it was even true, because I didn't know, right? It was given to me. So I went out and I had to find all these links and sources for other people to access that I had previously. I had to vet everything. It was a big job, but definitely a labor of love. So, you know, after that, you know, every once in a while, you know, I go shopping at Walmart or the dollar store or where most people shop, and I see people, and they and their kids, they look like they're drug addicts. They've got the big circles around their eyes. They're not happy. They're not healthy. They have no energy, and they don't know why. So we've been given an abundance of food. And I'm not saying one kind of food is better than another. That's up to you, what you want to eat. But there's an abundance of real food, and it's full of not just vitamins and minerals. It's It's a prepackaged delivery system for medicine, for everything you need, so that you can be sane, so you can be strong, so that you can be mentally fit. We don't know that. So we've been eating this garbage, and it's really hard to get off of. I quit lots of things, I quit some hardcore migraine headache medication. I tried some antidepressants and tranquilizers over the years. I had to get off all that. I had to get off alcohol. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying for me, it was no good. It was just a horrible thing what it did to me. And so I had to quit all these things, and including things like unhealthy relationships, and you name it, just like layers and layers of addictions. But the toughest one was to get off sugar and sweeteners and refined carbs. Oh my goodness. It was so, so hard. And a lot of people don't realize that I spent my whole adult life until I was 50 years old weighing over 320 pounds. Well, part of it was we were poor and we were going to the food bank, and what people give to the food bank sometimes is good food, but usually the core administrators take a lot of that food home themselves, and so you're left with the stuff nobody wants. So anyway, that didn't help. But anyway, I'm not trying to play the victim role. I'm saying that I had to wake up to all of this. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, so that's all part of the program. I just move on. Sorry, I got stuck on that part. And then I also teach you how to detox from the construct, to identify how we're programmed with neuro-linguistic training and all this other stuff that messes with our heads and takes us away from understanding that the power's inside of ourselves, right? Yeah. And so that was really important too. So now you've opened your mind, you've detoxed, or you're working on, because it actually takes 7 years to really detoxify. You're detoxifying your body. You're getting, all the things your body needs to heal and to function and to deal with stress and have a healthy immune system, all that jazz. And then you learn how to detox from the construct. Now the last three are the really fun ones, because they're about how to superpower your manifestation, how to bring what you want into your life. And be careful what you ask for, though, because sometimes it doesn't feel the way you thought it was going to. Would you agree with that, Lorilei?
I would agree with it, and especially right now, our mutual friend Augie Nost, and I had his co-host Rory Love on a couple of weeks ago, and one of the questions I asked was, why does it seem right now the law of attraction and manifestation is happening much easier, much quicker? And he explained, I guess, I know you know this, but for our listeners, he explained, I guess, that every 26,000 years with going in the solar system and the galaxy we're in, and we're rotating, the part that we're in right now energetically, this is why this is happening. So you do have, there's a reason why, and I was having this conversation with someone recently, who it was, but if they hear this, but I said, be careful what you ask for, right? Or the other things are, I trust my gut, somebody talking behind your back or stabbing you in the back, or these all really actually have physical proportions equivalent to this, as well as sometimes dealing with your energy centers. I mean, we can go on a whole different show. We could have done a whole show on quantum health transformation. I just wanted you to give people an idea, Karen, that you give this away for free. This really was a labor of love from you. And we're sure Karen lets you know by the end of the show where to find her. Maybe tell them quickly now, Karen, just in case someone has to pop off or they're just getting a few minutes, because this is really vitally important to check this out. It's a real gift.
Yes, you can find it on my website, www.karenholton.healthcoach.com. That's KarenHolton, healthcoach.com. I'm a different kind of health coach. So, yeah, so that's
I forgot to grab, and I moved downstairs because the devil, we call him on the show, is actually staying out at camp. I usually do this up in my room. Karen also has an organite business we will talk about, because she sent me the most beautiful pyramids, and I put that in my brain and I forgot to grab them.
That's okay.
we will definitely talk about this. And thank you, Karen. Yeah, but let's talk about why we're here, because this is something that can help. It probably should have come up in the second part, but I think it's vitally important since we mentioned it. So you were talking about the medical device or the jab, and I kind of cut you off rudely. I'm sorry.
Well, in the second half of today, this show, we're going to talk about solutions, and so that's more where it would.
It was the video you made. That's what it was, and the ET experiences and about the
yeah. So just to give people a little bit of background. So, but anyway, this last year and a half has been really hard on all of us, and so we've had to adapt and adjust and find ways of coping. And, we watched the American election, and to our great horror, I just want to clarify that I wasn't for any one person over another. I was terrified by all the options, to be honest with you, but the way it all went down and the way they stigmatized one guy and built the other guy up, it was just not fair and not right. It was like watching a bunch of kids competing. It was pretty nasty. So I was sort of able to stay out of it. But it was clear when it was over that it wasn't over. Something was wrong with the whole picture. And then we just had our Canadian election. And, quite a few of us were hopeful. We thought, because things have gotten really bad in Canada, right? As far as the rights and freedoms go, and then they're just getting worse every day. I'm sorry, I'm laughing because it keeps me from crying.
What else are you
it's
gonna
not
do?
funny.
What else are you gonna do? Like, what else are you gonna do, right?
Yeah. So I'm trying not to, get too. But anyway, and in a way, it kind of is funny, even though it's not funny. It's like so unbelievable. Anyway, so we kind of, I kind of thought there would be a difference.
I didn't.
And it ended with the guy, the creep that won again. He was celebrating the night before they even counted all the ballots.
I know, and it was so similar to what we've seen in the U.S. And I'm going to say that this weekend on LinkedIn, I had somebody that I've sort of, chit chat back and forth with. They initiated the conversation, and they made a smart ass comment about, as one of my friends calls him, and I said, Prince is too good, but she calls him the Prince of Darkness. So we'll go with that. That he had got back in. And I said, yeah, it's a real shame. I said, I'm not surprised, especially after what happened in the U.S. And it was like a switch had been switched.
Really?
The person just attacked me and told me I don't have a clue what I'm talking about. I know nothing about American politics. There was absolutely no evidence whatsoever of any cheating, that whom's in power right now, they were rightfully voted in. And all I was, maybe we shouldn't talk about politics. And then that's when they went off on me. And I thought, no, I don't know everything about politics, but I usually join I should give him a shout out, by the way, Joe Montalvo, owner and usual producer of our shows. Some of us are starting to take it over because he's going to be doing a lot of on the road stuff that's coming up in October. So thank you, Joe, for everything you do. But I usually join his panel show to discuss world politics. But when this got quite nasty, I thought, no, I guess we're going to have to block them, because I don't want to argue with them. And even people I know this is happening, they're arguing and arguing and arguing. And you know what? We're going to touch on this. But part of what I was saying to Karen that I wanted to bring up is when people are like ourselves that have done a lot of I do this all day long, sometimes 20 hours a day. I'm lucky if I get an hour's sleep, because I talk to people all over the world. And Karen can vouch for this. She does a lot of this herself. And you know what? We're sharing something with you. It's not pushing it on you. The discussion comes up, and, if they're open to it and they start discussing, we will share something. And I have one friend that went and got the medical jab. And then we had quite a discussion. These were their words, not mine. They didn't want to hear what I had to say earlier, months before. And I respected that. Didn't send them anything. And they started the conversation off by saying, I found out that ivermectin works from a friend. Very good. Nice. Happy for you. And then I proceeded to show a bit of information, and it was like it was trying to turn it into an argument. I just said, look, I said, I am sharing stuff with you because I don't need to be right. I would love to be wrong about all this stuff. Nothing would make me more elated in the world. I'm sharing this with you because I love you and care about you. And it's not about you're saying purple and I'm saying red. I would love to be wrong. And if I'm wrong, please tell me I'm wrong, but don't say it's been debunked or whatever, because there's thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people sharing this information and it's not being heard. And I didn't mean to get off track here, Karen. You're right. They did call the election. Our main broadcasting in Canada, we're 100% government with all our government funded with all our main broadcasting, called the election before the West polls had even closed. He was doing a speech already, right? Acceptance speech. And apparently you were told, which is a beautiful thing about talking to people in different parts of your country as well as around the world. We were both told, we both asked when we voted, how are these being counted? We were told by hand. There was not any machines like there had been the two previous times he got in. We played a big part with the Dominion voting machines with Canada. And so, you know, a hand count takes a long time. So you tell me how the polls aren't closed and you're already doing your victory speech. Go figure. And then, you know, it was the whole thing. It was the whole thing behind it, right, Karen?
Oh, yeah. I asked the guy at the polling station, I said to him, are you going to use those Dominion voting machines? He says, nope, they're all going to be hand done. He says, but you'll have to wait till tomorrow to get the results because it'll take us all night and part of tomorrow to count all the votes. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, I don't know, Tricky Trudeau's doing his happy dance victory celebration. But then we also saw a video. I see so many clips that I can't always keep them all in track of where I saw them.
You've got to debunk them. You've got to research them. We're not 100% perfect, but before I say things, I have a small core group of people I share things with that are open to receiving and sharing. And sometimes once you vetted it 3 or 4 different places and it ends up not being true. It's sent with the best intentions. But that's what I'm saying, Karen. We get sent so much and then you got to make sure that there's some truth to it, right?
Trying. But you and I saw a video that was a clip from 1995 where the guy was saying who was going to get in, that the election this year in the States was going to be fixed. It was already all decided who was going to get in Canada. He knew everything. He just laid it all out back in 1995. And the more, research we do on patents and things like that, the more we can see the whole thing was pre-planned. And now, I don't know if you saw, not to go off topic, but they've just released in the mainstream news that Canada has used this whole event to practice and test the limits of propaganda on Canadian citizens. So in other words, they've now admitted that they've been using psychological warfare against us.
I haven't, but the other thing that's very disturbing for Canada, as I call the Prince of Darkness, there's many names we call him on here, the leader of our country. The scary part is his father was in power for 28 years. There is no limit to the amount of time he can be in power. And that's a scary thing.
Especially if it's fixed. So my response to that was, and then, I go to my guides because they always seem to know what's going on more than me. And I said, what's going on? Here was a perfect chance to get rid of this turkey and see if we could bring about some change. It was interesting. They said, it's because not enough people are awake yet. It's like, it's the people who are refusing to see that are holding up the show and causing the suffering from everybody else. If they were all awake, then we could move on to whatever the next step is or stage is. I also got told that it wasn't really any of my business. I need to attend to my own life, my own health.
This is your life. This is your health.
I know, but I mean the big picture, the good versus evil part, because this is happening all over the world, right? And that I need to just keep doing what I do and just keep doing that and living and enjoying my life one day at a time with whatever blessings I have around me, whether it's a nice hot bath. I mean, half the people in the world don't have that, maybe more than half the people in the world.
I know, but there's things that we're seeing and things we're hearing and things that we are verifying. I will agree with you, asleep. Now, I don't live up in the Arctic that some people think I might. I live again in Canada. Actually, it was Dell that brought this up on one of the shows I did on his show. Most Canadians live close to an American border. They do. They really do. So we are about 35 minutes away from the Minnesota border. I'm about 6 hours north of Minneapolis, Minnesota. There's a city 3 hours away called Duluth, Minnesota. There's many Duluths in the U.S. I understand that. I think there's Duluth, Georgia, and there's other little small towns. I can tell you right now, when we could cross the border, I would see half my city there. And I'm really good friends. There's a little border store 2 minutes over, not even 2 minutes, it's about 15 seconds past the U.S. border. I'm really good friends with her. They let all of us in my city in Thunder Bay use their mailing address, and they have a big post outlet. Charge you $1 whenever you get over the border and you pick up your packages. So, she comes to our city when she could, to Thunder Bay, because it's closer for her to come to a more main city than it is to try to drive to Duluth, almost 2.5 hours away. So, like I said, we were quite open, with the border. Most people I know, some of them live right on the border. You just drive over a bridge. So the whole thing about all this is, and I was pointing this out, I think I talked about this too, Karen, is it's very interesting how Australia, the UK, and Canada all are or were under the Commonwealth with the Queen. And we are not saying that other people aren't going through hardship, because they are, but we are seeing what is going on and what is coming. And that's the scary part. This is why we talk about what we do. Like, Karen, you did an excellent video. I think were you with Chris? I can't remember if you were with Chris Matthew with that one or not, but you were referring to the leaked document, which I seem to be bringing up 100 times a day to various people, from October 10th, 2020, from a high up member of the Liberal Party, which is in control here in Canada, and people called foul on it. We have an independent news source here. Thank God we do. And Trudeau hates them. It's Rebel News. Even the head of that, who owns it, called foul on this document. You did a video, but that one was on your own, wasn't it?
Which one?
When you reviewed the October 10, 2020 leaked document about what we are following and how closely, right to the letter, we are following this.
Yeah, I did it as a Canadian correspondent on Forbidden Knowledge News.
I thought, okay, that's what it was.
That's where I originally did it. But then I also featured it in my radio show, which I'm no longer hosting, called Convergence.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was recently a guest again on Forbidden Knowledge News, and we went over it all over again to see what had happened in the last year. And yeah, it's all right on track. The other thing, I don't know if I told you, but do you remember you sent out a thing that said Saskatchewan was under martial law and that people couldn't do this and couldn't do that? And then I emailed someone who's sort of my contact in Saskatchewan. He said, "Oh, that's silliness."
No, it's not. It wouldn't have been me.
Well, now it's come out. It wasn't silliness. It's absolutely the truth. So basically, in Saskatchewan, the military or the police can go into anyone's home.
Yes, they can.
Without a warrant, can take anything they want, including you, and put you wherever they want to put you. That's already happening here in Canada. That's clearly also happening in Australia. You and I are both friends of Jimothy Masters.
Friends, a chat group from the Australia, many friends over in Australia. So I hear what's happening. But so when you said martial law, I was thinking martial law with military in the streets and stuff. But no, that document is true. And
it is. It turned out to be true.
Well, who referred to that was Dr. David Martin. And if you don't know who he is, you need to look him up. He has gone back through the decades connecting patents to and the patents are there. He's not lying about it. It's part of his job to verify patents and make sure they're on the level. It's all out there. He found it. He's put it out there. And he did a particular podcast on how the Prince of Darkness runs our country, is connected to all this. And he was the one that long before I saw that document, I heard him say that our laws were changed just before this happened. This actually is all across Canada. It's not just in Saskatchewan. It was changed federally.
Mm-hmm.
So they can come in, they can take all your property, they can take you. No warrants are needed as long as the state of emergency is called, and they can remove you if they want. Yep.
And now they're ramping up the state of emergency, and they've announced, our health minister for Alberta has announced that if you get any kind of sickness, even if you don't go see the doctor, even if you're not tested, even if you don't go to the hospital, even if you just stay home until you get better, it's counted as
The illness.
the illness. Sorry, I didn't know what to call it. Yeah, that's what it's counted as. Any kind of sickness whatsoever. Now, I don't even know how are they going to know that. How are they going to know if I have a sore throat for 3 days and then feel better afterwards?
Okay.
Which could be all the crap they're spraying in the air too.
I'm
That's
going to
just
sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I think I've had enough evidence to prove it with my phone about what's been going on. Because I can guarantee you, I have an iPhone 12. I went in there, by the way, because I seen a post about, I hadn't done it in a while, go in your blocking settings and check how many fact checkers you have.
yes.
Surprised.
Yes.
Also, what I did was they can track you through Facebook when you're not on the app. And I went through there yesterday. I haven't even had a chance to tell you this, and checked what I've been tracking. And I was shocked what they have been tracking. So I know when I'm watching a video that has been censored, that has truth in it. This is kind of how I know it's truth. My phone then goes completely black. I get the spinning of death. Phone completely is unusable anywhere from 1 to 5 minutes. It completely resets, and it's like I've never watched the video ever. I have to go back to the link, try and find the link, and rewatch it again. So I'm not listening. I imagine they probably are. They've got the technology for that. And no, not a tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy princess, even though Joe likes to call me conspiracy princess. And I don't, and I know he's doing it jokingly, he likes to tease us hosts on here. But the thing is, like I said, I do this all day long, and I'm talking to people and looking at stuff and putting two and two together. This is a good question. Is from Dave. He wants to know who you believe built Stonehenge. I know why he's asking this, but there's no agenda. I just know why he's asking this. Who do you think built Stonehenge?
Who do I think built Stonehenge?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this may not be popular, but it's what I think. Based on a lot of research, if you go back far enough to the megalithic stones and the great temples and the free energy and the amazing advanced civilizations that were around 200,000 years ago and older, I think we built them because I think we were a lot bigger and a lot stronger.
Yes.
A lot bigger. And I think giants, even in our day, giants have been more common than what anyone would ever believe. I'm a firm believer in giants.
That's all
my guides tell me the giants are going to be back too.
Me too.
Yeah, that's what I think. I mean, it also may have been altered because at one point everything was knocked down and they went in with heavy cranes and they put it all back together the way they thought it should be. This is just in the last 100 years. So we don't really.
We may have been giants before the cosmic energy crushed us. Now, I can tell you, I have seen many a documentary. My moderator lives over in Sardinia, especially. She didn't know a lot about it till I told her that they have unearthed ginormous tombs with femurs almost as tall as you and I, Karen. Main leg bone, skulls, you name it, and people that would get it be confiscated immediately. And she calls me, I call her my adopted daughter. She's an absolute sweetheart, and she's so gifted. She said now they're completely locked off to the public. Nobody can go near the tombs. Nobody can even, because this documentary was filmed a few years ago in Sardinia. That's not the only place, though. It's all around the world. So I believe
the Smithsonian has all the bones, but anyway, it's like we got smaller and smaller and smaller, and people will go at really recent history and go, yeah, but back in the 1800s, people were really tiny. Well, yeah, they were. Life was hard and they were malnourished. But if you didn't, If you look at pictures by Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, even the pictures he did of the lowest classes, they were all extremely muscular, well built, with a layer of fat. That was incredible girth to them that we don't see anymore, not even in bodybuilders.
Rubenesque women back.
Yeah.
It was not on vogue to be anorexic. That was considered a sign of low class and poverty if you were thin, right?
Yeah, you were starving if you were thin. Yeah.
Jeannie added Ireland, I think, as well, giants. Yes, I've heard that before too. So, but then again, we connect with spirit quite a bit. And I don't want to make that sound elitist, because I think anybody is capable of doing that if we tune in, maybe working with a different mentor or what have you. But I also am working with a couple groups with the spirit side, and getting some interesting information, names that we'd never heard before. And when we look them up, just like some of the information you shared about the quantum transformation, they do give us some information. And when you look it up and you've never heard the name before, you're absolutely astounded when you see the information that's in there. So we are getting some information now. We've gotten some information that hopefully by next year, in early next year, not early, but hopefully the first quarter, there's going to be a good shift and for the positive. And I certainly hope so. And I'm a firm believer in focus on what you want to see, not what you don't. But we're going to talk about this tonight. There is one thing I am going to bring up. Thank you, Jeannie. You're so sweet. She says, I love this program. We love you too. We love all of you guys. And we're so glad that you're here. And this is not to cause fear, okay? I want you to hear this right now, because I really, truly believe that knowledge is empowering. But I do believe we need to prepare for some food shortages, right, Karen?
Oh, absolutely. There's been a number of farmers, they come out and they make these podcasts, excuse me, and they go, I don't usually make podcasts. This isn't my thing, but I just feel like I got to tell you what we've been told. And he shows a letter, they're being basically, if they harvest their crops, they will be penalized and they will be run out of business. They're all have to destroy their crops, or and if they do, then they get money. And this is what's happening everywhere, whether it's a school board, whether it's farmers, whether it's a hospital. They're getting all this money poured at them, and they're not making decisions that are on what's best for us. Now I understand the farmers, because they would be completely out of work, and then how are they going to feed their family? Everybody's going like, how are we going to feed our family? That's different than the bureaucrats that are taking a lot of money, and nobody even knows where the money's going. It's not going into new classrooms or better technology or cleaner anything. It's where's the money going? Well, that one school district, the mom found out that they had received $5 million for maintaining the mask mandate. And she says, where's the money?
I shared it and said, don't mess with a mama bear, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, but getting back to what you were saying, I have been a firm believer in prepping. Now, I don't have the space or the money or even the wisdom about prepping to have like a 5-year supply of food. And I'm not big and strong. I don't think I could go out and wield an axe and do the homesteading and all that jazz. So I have no idea what will happen. But I have made sure that I have gotten some basic stuff put away. Every time I go shopping, I just pick up an extra this or an extra that. And I've got it tucked away in quite a few places, because there is rumors that they will be coming around and helping themselves. If there's a food shortage, you could see them going, oh, evil hoarders, and we got to take your food away from you. That could happen. So you want to have it put in different places if you can. I don't want to give away all my secrets, but I can't stress it enough. You want to be prepared for the worst, but you want to expect the best. And if you're prepared for the worst, you can relax, you can think clearer, and you can deal with it.
And this isn't just coming from North America. We're hearing for many, many farmers from India. And what I'm going to tell you guys is, you don't have to believe us at all. please, if anything resonates with you, do your own research. I would suggest probably not using Google because you'll be looking through the Sundays before you find stuff. There's great search engines out there like DuckDuckGo. There's lots of different ones to look at.
Yeah.
But you can see Telegram's a great place to go to. It's uncensored, so you will see people speak freely. But there are people making videos out there. And the one thing that this is where I was going with it is long time ago, long before this, I kept hearing follow the money. I kept thinking, what the heck does that mean, follow the money? When you break it down and you start looking at the organizations involved and you spend time and you follow the tree or the road to it all, to the top, it's always the same names and it's always the same money funders, people behind it. So the other thing is Bill Gates is buying up most of the farmland in the US. That is not a rumor. Again, you don't have to believe us about all this. I strongly urge you, and I have great respect for people that when they put information out like this, they say the same thing. Please go do your own research and question everything. Everything. You need to. Right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that was the other thing you and I were talking earlier about. It started with the most recent American election, and people were fighting over things as though they were fighting for a sports team. Oh, this team or that team, and that same mentality is happening with people that are fighting over reality, and of course all this medical and government stuff. And the thing is like Lorilei said, we hope to God we're wrong. Please show us that we're wrong, and because it's pretty hard to chew and it's pretty hard to accept. I mean, I think those of us that do accept it, we can then move on with what we can do to still maintain a decent life for ourselves embedded within the absurdity, right? But I hope we're wrong. So we're not trying to convince anybody. Problem is, people get really offended when I speak my truth, and sometimes that makes my environment not feel very safe. I don't know. What do you say about that, Lorilei?
I was just going to post something that I just found, and I thought, nope, I know where this is going, and nope, I won't platform to speak on. But TikTok, you got to be careful. There's a gentleman that got kicked off of there, and there's a ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court that came out. And instead of GMO foods, it's talking about human beings. And the conversation with the person from high school today tried to tell me this has been debunked. Well, he gave me the web address. So I spent the time, took me 8 times replaying the video. I spent it on the document. And if what I'm reading, this came right from the US government site, that if you accept the job and it does exactly what you're hearing, or your hearing is not true, it is true. It does modify you in a way that you can be owned, you can be patented, and the company you were jabbed with, and you lose all human rights. And I'm summarizing this so quickly. This is from the video. I found the document tonight, and it's a long document full of legalese, but like this guy got kicked off of there. He has no platform anymore, but he put it on there, and it does exist. He's not lying, and it starts off talking about these jabs, mRNA. So you may want to look that up. It's at the Supreme Court. Most of you that are here know me, so you can send me a message. I'd be happy to share it with you. I have to email it to you or text it. But yep. So there's things happening, and that's the problem. You don't know what to believe, what not to believe. The one thing I will say, and I say this to every show I do, we are stronger together. We are divided. We can agree to disagree. I've never seen so many people, families, relationships, friendships, fractured, arguing over something, and I'm going to say it again, and I've said it many times. I have a son with severe autism. Sometimes there was 3 to 4 hour meltdowns. All I could do was sit and hold him, so he didn't hurt something and he didn't hurt himself. And one time it came to me, and this is before I knew that I connected with spirit, and it was this, and I use it many times in lifetime, and it's this. If it makes no difference 10 minutes from now, let alone 10 years from now, Let it go and pick your battles carefully, because we're never going to remember 10 years from now that we were fighting over all these little things. We're losing our freedoms. You guys may not believe this, but if something is legislated, even if it's under emergency, whatever, it usually does not come back. You guys know that income tax was only supposed to be for a few months after the war. Look where we are now. 9/11. Think about how our travel changed and everything. Did anything ever go back to the way it was before?
Mm-mm.
Do you think anything else to add to that, Karen?
No, yeah, I mean, if you look back like 50 years at the way it was, people had more of an illusion of safety and correct governance than what they really had, but they believed that it was there to serve them. But if you look throughout history, there's always been an elite class, and then there's been a highly skilled class, which, back in the day, it might have been, a stonemasonry, or nowadays it would be the tech industry, right? And then there's all the so-called grunts who just generate everything for everybody else. So whether it's just our spending money so that it, inflates the gross national product, or whatever, but and then the lower classes are always kept struggling, so they don't have the time or the energy to prepare decent meals, to get enough sleep, to get exercise, to be there for their kids. So there's a huge emotional problem there, because we're basically traumatized and we don't get to bond with our babies and have the kind of relationships with our kids that we are entitled to. And I'm talking every human being on this planet's entitled to this. It's not just Karen and my friends, right? And so that's put a rift psychologically, so that the dysfunction in families is intergenerational. But that being said, it's not all a total loss. I mean, I think the only way, at least from my perspective and my own experience, was to go within and to contact spirit within. Now I've got my own training.
Go ahead, finish that, because I wanted to add something to that. Sorry, Karen. We have a bit
well, now I have my own training system. Now I have my own support system. Now I have my own really good ideas that I never would have thought of on my own. And when I went from and most people are geared and programmed to look externally for the things they need, not internally, and then look at the mess we have today. So I'm just saying,
I'm
look at
sorry,
it,
guys. I have a delay on my end. I always do, and I forget, because it's gotten better with StreamYard. So I don't mean to talk over Karen. She knows that, but some people may not.
Yeah, it's all good.
I want to add something, because I highlighted Jeannie's comment, but it made me think of something, and it goes along with what Karen's saying. And she says, David Icke said all this years ago and was laughed at on British television. Now, what he said, I just watched a recent interview with him, and it was with Brian Rose. I forget what his channel is on YouTube. It's a big one, big channel.
Yeah.
Anyways, and I think
London Real.
Thank you.
Is it on London Real?
This is really important, because David Icke said, I'm not afraid. I have nothing to fear from them. And he talked about exactly what you said, Karen, going within, recognizing the potential that we have and trying to build on that. We've been told is never possible. But this is something so important. And yes, Jeannie, you're right. They're only 1%. We should stick together. You know what he said? Because the only weapon they have is fear. If it's the fear and we stick together, people, this is done. And they know that. And they don't want us to know all the potential we have as human beings that we've been told is never possible, that it's still up here. It just needs to be unlocked, and some of the belief systems unlocked, right, Karen? So I think even when you said with going within, meditation, sitting in quiet, sitting in absolute silence, because a lot of stuff comes to you, and clarity, you can quiet the mind, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to trick us when we're in our whole self.
Mhm.
because we're now, like I mentioned earlier, we're grounded to the earth, we're connected to that whole. It's not like humans are living on the planet. We're embedded into a really moist, huge, complex system.
Mhm.
We're also connected, to the heavens and other realms. Holy shit, there's not really anything we need to be afraid of, because we've got all this input and power. And when we're in our power and when we're relaxed and when we feel good, we kind of look at all that stuff they're trying to pull over everyone's eyes, and you just laugh. It's not funny, but you just laugh at them because they're fools. It's so easy to see the emperor is naked. He's not wearing any clothes. It's all bullshit. And wow, does that ever free you up for creativity, free you up for more friendships, free you up for everything. And we can have a good life embedded even no matter what's going on around us. I guess maybe Bruce Lee said, be the eye of the storm. No, he said, be water. But I'm saying, be the eye of the storm. That's where it's calm.
Mhm.
It's all going around you.
No,
I know that
right.
sounds very philosophical, but it works.
Or know your rights. Because I just watched a video in Ontario, because we have the jab passport where I live. And these people are paralegals. They shared all the links with everybody so you can use it. And they were in Toronto. And if you've ever been to Toronto, we usually hear that that is Canada, is usually what you hear around the world. But they have a big mall there called the Center. And they went as a group, about 8 of them, and they bought food. And the security guard tried to stop them coming in. You have to eat your food if you don't have your jab passport. And they'll just push past them, sat down. They had about 8 security guards telling them they had to leave. And they said, no, we don't. We're not breaking any laws in section such and such, such and such, such and such. So they called the police. Get this big, burly police officer walking out. You need to leave and leave now, or I will arrest you. You're trespassing. So, and it was a female actually that knew most of this. Her name's Rebecca Shepherd. Officer, we're not trespassing. We're not creating any issue. We're not creating any problem. This is the definition according to Ontario law of trespassing. And she just gave the knowledge. She was very polite. She was very what have you. Okay. They ended up standing off to the side with the manager of the whole mall standing there. I guess they were waiting for a supervisor. In the meantime, the people finished the food, kept live streaming, walked out. They didn't know if they were going to be arrested or not. They were prepared for it. They really broke no rules. I know they didn't. The police officers just walked away with their tails between their legs over to their cars. But the whole point is, and it's not to make fun of police, because I support the police, because without them, we'd be living in the wild, wild west. The whole point is, I don't think they want to be doing this either. But those people used knowledge. They looked up their laws. They looked up where they were covered. What was the law? What was a recommendation? And so on and so forth. And it worked. And there's been countless examples. Now, this isn't working all across the world. I know that, because we've seen it coming out of Australia. It doesn't matter if you know your laws or not. But if you're in an environment, you can use knowledge. Use it.
I actually saw 2 clips today. One of them was in Ontario. The police have now issued a formal statement. They will not be harassing anybody for eating indoors. It's not worth it. They're not going to do it. And I also saw another one out of Australia where the police are saying, we're not doing this anymore. We're not doing this anymore.
Somebody
so we never know which way the tide's going to go, right?
Sorry, I keep talking over you. I don't mean to, but Jeannie Spencer from the UK said, what's Karen's Facebook called?
Oh, Karen Holton. I kept it the same. So Facebook, Karen Holton, YouTube, Karen Holton, Odyssey, Karen Holton. It's not that I'm bragging. It's just I wanted it so people could find me wherever they were.
Yeah, it's easy.
Thank you for asking, Jeannie.
Yeah, thank you. No, but this is it, right? Is standing together, agreeing to disagree. Okay, because as adults especially, we should be able to I got ripped apart in one of the groups I'm in, and they're all awake because of the video I shared in there from Ontario. That what had happened was somebody had posted some misinformation in there, and I was very kind about it. I said, hey, this sounds very intriguing, like what you're putting in here, basically saying everything was going to be over in 21 days. I said, okay, but I just need a source because the people I share it with will ask me for a source. When I found out the source, they sent me the link. I went to in the video where they said it. And what they said is Canada's already proved that this doesn't exist and everything's all over in Canada. And I called them on that. And I said, I'm sorry to tell you that is misinformation. So they did not like that. I guess. And I was very kind about it. And I used voice messaging so they could hear me because we lose a lot in translation, I think, with texting and emailing. So what happened was when I posted this video of what happened in Ontario, this person posted, those people need to be sitting away from others and not wearing a mask. And I said, well, they weren't sitting with anybody. They were sitting with each other. There was nobody around them. I said, you're entitled to your opinion. But I said, by law, we are allowed to do what they did. They broke no laws. And then I had somebody else chime in. Well, they may be allowed to do it, but should they? Oh, good Lord, I'm not posting this to cause a fight. And this is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the answer is, Karen. Have you got any thoughts? Because you know what? If you don't agree, you don't need to start an argument about it. Like,
I actually had a little conversation with myself today because I get quite a few friend requests on Facebook, and some of them are legit, and some of them are people want to sell me stuff, and some are just God only knows.
yeah,
They think that I've got nothing to do all day but to sit and chat with them. No disrespect to people, but I can't do that all the time. So they don't like it when I'm not all Jimmy on the spot. So I was saying to myself today, I said, Karen, how far should you go with explaining to people? And my higher self said, you don't explain yourself at all. You don't never owe anybody an explanation. So long story short, I know this is going to sound terribly rude and selfish, but I'm just going to tell you the truth. If I get an argumentative, dominating, any kind of vibe, because I'm like you, we're sensitive to energy. We get a body sensation when we're reading the posts and stuff. I just don't engage. I just leave it alone. Whatever. They can go and do whatever they're doing in their corner. There's no point. I would never be able to convince them anyway. There's an old saying that says, people who understand you don't ever have to explain to, and people who don't understand, no matter how much explaining you do, they won't understand. It's not our job to teach everyone. Yeah, you and I are trying to get the word out. We're trying to warn people. We're trying to wake people up. We're trying to provide some encouragement, some comfort, and some solutions, but I'm not babysitting anybody else. They got to wake up, and sometimes they got to fall on their ass a few times, and they got to wake up. And then when they're in a position where they're open to what we have to say, I'm happy to share it, but I'm not wasting my energy. There isn't enough energy in a day. It's like, that's another distraction that'll just take me away from my work and my enjoyment of this life.
that's what I said today I said, listen, I said, I'm not going to argue with you. And they just kept sending me message after message. This person from high school, they may have had a lot of things to say, and that's fine, but exactly. And actually, I've been pretty fortunate with most people. This first time, maybe it's my turn now. I don't know, but I've seen it 3 times now in a space of 2 days, and I'm not confrontational. I don't try and change people's minds either, because if you're open to it, and this is how the conversation goes. You meet somebody, you have a conversation, they might bring a little bit up about something, and I might bring something up. And if we're on the same page and we continue, it's kind of sad it has to happen that way. But then you can have an open conversation. I just had another conversation with somebody else today that when they get asked if they've had the jab, they live in the States, and I know that Dal just healthy people. This is his version. I'm not saying it's true. This is what he says. Healthy people don't need to put medication in their body, whatever it may be. People ask me, I just say, I'm in the control group. Nobody has an idea what the control group is, and it ends the discussion. So Ogini says, I'm 61, been awake for years, but people don't want to know. You are right. And there's no sense, like you got to choose where you're going to spend your energy. And speaking of that, how about this goes by so quick, Karen. We got 40.
I know it does.
So let's talk about what people can do. We didn't even get into the nitty gritty. We're going to, but we just went wherever the conversation was going to go. So what can people do, Karen?
Oh, I thought maybe you and I could both share the protocols that we personally do. They're different, and they're not health recommendations. We're not giving medical advice,
Nope.
even though I guess you could because you're a registered nurse, but I'm a
Sure.
social worker. I can't really do that. And we want you to just use these protocols as jumping off points to do your own research. So I thought that might be a good place because you and I both had good results, and we're able to nip whatever's in the bud right away, and we're doing good.
Number one, turn off the TV.
Yeah.
Just you got your favorite program, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you turned off the news and you turned off the radio and you didn't read a news report or magazines and you just carried on with your wonderful, amazing, wonderful self, we wouldn't even know this existed.
Wasn't it you that said recently that almost all the light workers, or maybe all the light workers you know, don't watch TV?
Yeah, it was me. Yeah.
Yeah, that was you.
I don't watch TV. Most people I know watch TV. And it wasn't because and somebody took it as, well, you don't watch it because you're too sensitive. And I got way too many other things to do. I don't want to watch people living life. I want to live my own life and create my own things. And I got 3 books I'm writing. I'm more busy now than when I was working 3 jobs with a baby as a nurse. And I am. And I love life. I love what's going on. And, some of the things we've mentioned already about how to change life here. The one thing I do want to add, find your people. They're out there. Not that we're hanging up, but like, for example, what I talked about happened this weekend. I had people I could connect to and talk to, and whether it was just receiving a little bit of support or understanding, or, even maybe some clarification from spiritually where this person might have been coming from. I have those support people, and I want that for everybody, right, Karen? Mm-hmm.
Yep, me too. And I guess a little bit later on, maybe we could talk about that. We're coming together. It's almost an energetic coming together of different people. All have different skills and talents, but we're all sort of on the same page. And we've known each other long enough now that we've got the trust.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're forming a bit of a support network, because there's going to be a lot of people that are waking up. A lot of us have been awake for a long time. A lot of people haven't. This is a big shock. Most people still believe the government, they would never do that to us. You know what I mean? That kind of a thing. They're going to wake up and they're going to be hurting, and they're going to need to know where to go. And so both Lorilei and I have different kinds of services, but I want to talk about the protocol because it's important for people to know that there are protocols out there. So Dr. Madej, David Avocado Wolf, a number of reputable and reliable people.
5 docs. They go live every 3rd Thursday of the month. If you sign up with Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, you can get the newsletter. They will notify you. You can sign up with the Zoom link, but I'll warn you because I missed last week's. I was there 10 minutes early, and I think they allow 3,000 people into it. You can ask questions, and it's Dr. Lee Merritt, it's Dr. Carrie Madej, it's Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, Dr. Christiane Northrop, and Dr. Larry, I always get his last name wrong, Pavleski, I believe. And it's called the 5 Docs with Dr. T and Dr. P. And so you think that's open to 3,000 people around the world, and it fills up in seconds on Zoom. They do post it afterwards. So the other thing is, and Joe Montaldo and I have talked about this before, and other people I've talked to as well. You know what's going on in your country? Look in foreign newspaper and foreign news sources. Just after I told you to turn the TV off, but if you do, you will be amazed. I just had somebody notify me of something over, I believe, in Australia, of something going on here in Canada that even our independent news source hadn't. I forget what it was. It wasn't like major earth shattering, but it was something that we should have heard about and we didn't. So our good friend Augie, he speaks and reads about 7 languages. So
yeah, he does.
He gave quite a few newspapers a few weeks ago to go to check that are still in English, even if they're say in India or Russia or wherever, because his thoughts were, and I have to agree with him, what he had said was, I think countries have no problem reporting on what's going on in other countries. It's just they're forbidden to report it in their own. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic. Like our mutual friend in Australia contacts us, tells us he's being told about what's going on in Canada, and we send him posts on what's going on Australia, and he lives in Australia. It is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. No, Jeannie, she didn't catch the name, so I'll say it very. If
Yeah.
you look up the 5 docs, DOCS, so D is in dog, O, C is in cat, S is in Sam, use DuckDuckGo, but it's Dr. Sherry, so it's Sherry with an I. Tenpenny is all one word. Dr. Carrie Madej's last name is a hard name to spell, so it's M as in Mike, A, D as in dog, E, J as in Jack. There's Dr. Christiane Northrup. She's a Hay House author, so you should be able to find her on hayhouse.com. There is Dr. Lee, Lee Merritt, M as in mouse, E, T as in Tom, D as in Tom. She is an orthopedic surgeon who is pretty high up in, I believe, the Navy with the military. Never thought she'd ever be a part of this, and she is. And then who did I miss? And quote me on Dr. Larry, because I never spell his last name right, but I believe it's Dr. Larry Pavlesky. I think it's P as in Peter, A, V as in Victor, E, L as in lion, S as in Sam, K as in kite, Y as in yellow, I guess. He is a pediatrician, so he brings a really interesting perspective, especially now that I just heard from somebody, I haven't verified it, that in at least, I think, I say one of the provinces, or it could be in the US, please don't quote me, but they've just approved it for 5 to 12-year-olds now for the shot. Check my messages, I'll probably be able to see it because I just got it between shows. So we're giving this to children too. And I think what we're forgetting is children are our future. And children don't get sick from this. This should never be happening. Never, never, ever, ever. So it's an interesting perspective from Dr. Larry. Sorry, but like I said, Jane asked about that, so I wanted to make sure anybody else would hear
Oh,
that.
it's important. It's very, very, very important.
Mhm.
And also, David Avocado Wolf, he's a health guru. He has a protocol, and
Yeah, there's a lot of doctors out
somebody
there.
else.
We don't hear about them. There's Dr. Francis Christian, if you can hear that. He's from Saskatchewan. He actually silently taped his reprimand for speaking out against this. There's Dr. Roger Hodgkinson from Canada, originally from the UK. He's got a lot to say. There is Dr. Charles Hoff. These are all Canadian doctors I'm mentioning, but you have them in all of your countries. You do. All you have to do, make sure you don't use Google, and search for the doctors in your country. Because, and especially that's why I suggested one of the big things you can do is find your people. They're out there. There's groups out there. Telegram's a great one. Even on Facebook, quite a few groups. And you will be able to share information because this is how we get information. I belong to one group for independent journalists and podcasters and a messenger. It was started by somebody in South Korea. So there's people from all over the world. I'm in a local group. I got added to one from Australia, and there's one I'm in. Karen and I are both in for light workers. So they're out there. Find your people, connect with them, share information, have open discussions, and ask questions. The other thing I can't suggest enough is, and I truly believe what Karen said, and I always teach this to my students, is I believe as human beings we're meant to run energy. We have an energy system through our body called the chakra system. We have many more other places on our body, but we are meant to run energy through if you want, our crown chakra right up to source, to God, whatever belief system, the universe, Gaia is down below. We're going to get to that. And I believe any energy that no longer serves us, we are meant to ground it to the earth. I call her Gaia into the earth. You can call it whatever you want, okay? But we are meant to energy as human beings. We are meant to be in balance. So one of the best things you can do, you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling whatever it may be, get out in nature. If you can, take your shoes and socks off and get your feet right on the earth. There are documentaries out there making this sound like this is a newfound discovery called earthing. years, how many centuries has that been around, Karen?
Oh, forever. People couldn't afford, or they didn't even have a concept of shoes, really. History is not what we've been taught. It's really quite different and more interesting. Um, I was going to say too, as a foundation, don't just rely on vitamins. I think vitamins are really important. I take vitamins. I take all kinds of supplements.
Yeah, I do.
You want to get all your minerals and you want to get all your vitamins for sure. And it's dubious as to whether you're getting that through your food. But I also believe in doing our very best to eat real food. And, take a cooking class. There are tons of free videos on YouTube and everywhere. And you don't have to be a vegan, and you don't have to be a carnivore. Like I suggest people take a look at what their ancestry, what their grandparents and great grandparents ate, and try to model that, because chances are that's something that we can digest. But if we don't give our body the components it needs to make the building blocks, how are we supposed to be intact? And there's so many people that are so vitamin D deficient. A lot of what we're seeing as full-blown illness in its infancy was a nutritional deficiency.
Well, most people are. I've done a lot of research on that. I am vitamin D deficient, I found out. My son has it. My eldest, he actually has to be on prescriptions for vitamin D. And it's not because whether some of us just don't synthesize it. The other thing I want to add to that about eating for your ancestors, Karen, there's a great book out there called Eating for Your Blood Type. And I have so much evidence of people. There's diets recommend that you can eat for what your blood type is. And believe me, your doctor or somebody will know what your blood type is. It's not that hard to find out. And when you start to tailor your diet to what your blood type is, that's who you're made up of, basically blood, DNA, muscles, and tissues. But your blood goes through all your tissues. So if you're going to eat for something that sort of courses through your body and the right type of food that agrees with the blood type that you have, it just makes common sense.
Oh, it really does. And, back when I was about 50 years old, I was actually reading that material and applying it to what I was eating. And that was when I started to substantially lose weight. I lost actually over 178 pounds from my top weight, but I got anorexic. I got real skinny. I'm not going to get into it, but I had some health issues and some surgery issues and stuff like that. And I got a bit too skinny. Well, then I went through menopause. I'm probably put about 20 pounds back on, but I'm still so much healthier than I ever was before. And that's how I started was the blood type diet. So I tell people, if you don't know, like I'm a bit of a Heinz 57 with all kinds of divorces and who knows in my history. So I went to the blood type, and it was great. It's interesting.
I'm seeing it more and more and more. And Dave Petrella adds good oils. Yes. Now, I'll be honest with you. I won't say who, but I know somebody that's been ill 4 times in the last year and a half with respiratory illnesses. And they were taking vitamins prophylactically. They did their research, and a very close member of their family got very ill, like ending up in bed. And when they got ill, and of course they did their research, they ended up increasing the supplements the way they needed to be. We're talking things like zinc and vitamin D. And you need to do your research though. Anyways, they added zinc lozenges, they added quinine. By the way, most people aren't aware of that, which is a derivative of I never say the word right, hydrochloroquine or quinine, or quercetin. That is actually available in tonic water. So they added tonic water until they made their own made quercetin. You can find recipes on the internet. And you can take it prophylactically, teaspoon a day, teaspoon twice a day. Needless to say, their loved one who was that sick 12 hours later. And I mean, this can't be chance that it's worked now 5 times, with one individual 4 times, another one once. So do your research, the information is out there. The doctors we mentioned, they will tell you, they're not giving you medical advice, but they will share with what they do. Many of the protocols this person I'm talking about used, and they work. They're there for a reason.
Another thing that I do is I have my devices all plugged into anti-surge bars. Before I go to bed at night, I click them all off. So I shut everything down. Now I know some people like to use their phone next to their bed for an alarm clock, but wow, it really does affect your immune system. So the more you can distance yourself from technology while you're sleeping, and sleep is another really big thing. You know, even I feel guilty when I get a lot of sleep sometimes, but it's so important, especially in dealing with stress and for rebuilding and
That's where
everything
we do
else.
all our healing is during sleep.
Yeah.
Always, always, always. Ladies, even any of those of you that may use night creams, you just have to read about what may be in them. But some people use, a lot of women use them, right? The
Mhm.
reason why they give you the more powerful stuff, usually at nighttime, or the heavier stuff, is you put it on and you go to sleep. That is when you do most of your healing. You do. I'm saying that from
Mhm.
a medical perspective. Jeannie asked, Karen, did you take hormone replacement therapy at all? She said,
Oh no, I'm a completely natural girl. You know, I even I'm so natural, you wouldn't believe it. I know I'd probably be more comfortable if I took it, but I went, you know what? I think God made me the way I'm supposed to be, or the goddess, or whatever you want to call it. You know, I want to go through life the way my great grandmother went through life, my great great grandmother. And I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, but the more I'm natural, and I'm not trying to brag or say that you should all be like that. No, no, I would not judge you. You all have your own lives and your own challenges, absolutely. But for me, it seems to help enhance my spiritual contact. And if you think about it, if you have a bunch of chemicals in your body, that your body will let those go as soon as you bring in the superior food or the natural thing that you need, or the sleep, or whatever you start doing that's positive, is making steps towards healing your body. So I believe my body is an amazing machine, that it can heal through anything. And I've been through some pretty tough situations and been healing pretty good.
Mhm.
And so no, I didn't want to. I don't know. After 50, I got to tell you guys, life gets so much easier. You stop caring what people think. You stop fussing so much about the way you look. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. If that gives you pleasure and confidence, that's awesome. But we start to then appreciate other things. I know this is going to sound silly, but sitting out on the deck watching the birds jumping around in the trees is a really big deal for me. I just love it, little things like that. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm getting off track of the
No, but
hormone
I was going to say,
replacement. I didn't do any of it. I'm hairy and old and wrinkled, and I'm all good.
well, I was going to say that I have to agree with you, and people need to do what they need to do and work with their healthcare providers. But my mother got breast cancer when she went on hormone replacement, and
Mm,
went on it quite young because she needed to have her, let's just say, her plumbing removed quite young. And my
mhm.
mother got breast cancer. They tried to tell her it wasn't breast cancer by the way it presented within 3 weeks, and it indeed was breast cancer. So, yeah, you do your research, do your homework, whatever it may be. But I'm 56, and I haven't gone through the change. I don't know why yet, but I haven't. When I do, I will not be using that for myself with the research I've done in the history that I have. And these are important. I think we're touching on an important thing here too, is history. And was it you? It was in your video, Karen. I think it was really important. I was thinking, I've seen so much today, talked to so many people, but your guides, it was your guides that gave you in this video you just put out about time and history. We just keep repeating ourselves and how the costumes are different. Would you mind sharing a bit about that? Because I think that's important.
Yeah, it was. I got that from my another dream I just had. Most of my really spectacular experience happens when I'm sleeping,
Mm-hmm.
but I know it's real. I know it's real because I wake up and it's like um, they don't bother me, but they kind of do. They're like they won't let me go back to sleep unless I go, yeah, I got it.
And they keep
I'm gonna
waking you
produce a
up.
video
Do you
about
remember
this.
Karen? Do you remember Karen? Do you remember Karen? Remember the last
Yeah.
guides?
It's
Yeah.
sometimes it's annoying and sometimes I'm exhausted because I'm at school all night. But anyway, they were teaching me about time and they showed it like a huge spiral. So we think of time, you start here and you boom, 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 boom your way and you end here. Well, that's an illusion. That doesn't exist. What exists is cycles. And the pagans understand cycles, and many different kinds of people, and the Mayans understood cycles, all cycles. So it's all going around and around in a spiral. And if you can imagine it kind of squished down, once we understand that time and space are linked that way, and yeah, basically the costumes can change and the names and the fads can change, but the same stuff is repeating for thousands and thousands of years. But once you sort of get a handle on that, you realize it's not that hard to jump from one spot to another. And this gets kind of freaky, but you actually, say for instance, you want to go to outer space, you access outer space by going into inner space. It's so cool. Mm-hmm. So anyway, yeah, so I don't fully understand it, but I made a video about it to get it out there, along with an image that sort of.
Well, I know what I thought was so important, and Dave, you're right, is that they're all happening at the same time. They are. Then you can get one of these days. We're going to be doing a show on time and time dimensions, and probably Karen will be there. There's a few people I'll probably have there to discuss it, because many of us discuss this off the air. But what I think is really important, what you said in that video. And I watched it today because you had sent it, and I usually watch what you sent me. But when you said history is sort of repeating itself, and guys, look back almost 100 years ago where we were. Different name, different part of the world, different costumes, possibly a different population, but we can see many of the similarities happening again and again, and you go back in history, you will see the same thing. So that's what really hit me, Karen, because you are so right.
My guides are right. To not to contradict you, but it's my guides who are right, because I just received the information. But it's like Dave is saying on the chat, he says they're all happening at the same time. Yeah, they're all happening at the same time. Mm-hmm. And I was just going to throw another little tidbit in there. I can't tell you how many times I've been watching one of my videos, especially my instructional type videos, and I see my mom. I go, oh my God, that is my mom. It's almost like my mom comes through me, and of course, she's kind of bossy that way anyway, right? So it kind of comes through me and takes over the lesson, and it's really trippy. Reality is way more fun than what we've been taught.
Mm-hmm. Wait, I'm just reading Jeannie's comment. She said, at the start, you were talking about products. I was going to say, I'm old school. My mom and Nan couldn't afford, so made with natural or made their own. And yes, even though I come from a big pharma background, and I do, and I'm not giving advice here. I'm telling you what I do. If there is a natural alternative, I will use it. And it's not that we don't go to the doctor, but I will tell you, no, I don't think I'm a doctor. And we can even get into a discussion of past lives, that I believe I was a healer in many past lives, because even as a nurse, when I worked out in the community and there was just myself, I'd walk in and see something and I'd know exactly what it needed. I just have to call the doctor and ask for it and sign his name on it. And the same thing at home here. I keep a lot of natural stuff. Anybody that's had an issue, I just said this to my guys, because I'm in a house with all boys, my son and the Dell, and then I've got a son and a son-in-law. So I've said to them, I'm not trying to say I'm a doctor again, but we've stayed out in the emergency room a lot and the doctor's office. And I'm not saying everybody should do this, but the information is out there. By doing research, finding your communities that do this kind of thing, there are many free resources and people out there that want to teach you. And it's available. It's all out there. Right, Karen?
Absolutely. And also, if you want some other ideas, you could go check out the Quantum Health Transformation Program. It's absolutely free, no strings attached. It's also on my YouTube channel. It's also on my Odyssey. But on my website, it's laid out very, very clearly. There's links to get into it. And then the different steps are presented in the correct order. And I'll be adding some more information. I'm actually going to do Quantum Health Transformation 3.0, because the 1.0 was very, very on a very mainstream level, and then the 2.0 took you a little bit deeper, and now it's time, if people have done the 2.0, they're definitely ready for the 3.0. So I'm going to get into a lot more detail on that. But anyway, that's absolutely free. Please do share it with your friends. And if there's parts that you don't relate to, no problem, move on to something else. I'm sure there's something in there. But step 6 is 5, 6, and 7 is the really good part about detoxification. It'll really help.
Well, that's the thing, and let's even go there with detoxification. We've covered the diet, we have the need for sleep, finding your support system. Knowledge is power. So don't go there with the fear. Focus on what you want to see. Like I think Karen, you said it beautifully, that be prepared for the worst, but focus on the best. Expect the best, okay? Because everything can change in a dime. The other thing, though, is with detoxification, and we mentioned a bit about it, is, watching TV. There's reasons why. People put it in the chat tonight. I think it was Jeannie that put live vision instead of television. There's reasons why it's called a channel. There's a reason why it's called programming. And there's all kinds of things that desensitize us, guys. Like in every program, there's all kinds of symbology in the background that you may not recognize, but your subconscious is picking up on. There is the music videos, you name it, it's out there. It's like I said, it's not overt all the time, but it's there. Okay. Some of the propaganda we're hearing. The other thing, I've had a real discussion with people over in the last probably 5 days. None of us are really aware of what our children are being taught. And my kids are out of school now, but think about it. Short of putting a camera on your children going to school, you have no idea what their heads are being filled with. It was Project Veritas, I believe, exposed that teacher that had pictures of China, was teaching them about how to join Antifa. And he's had former teachers in that school. Now the parents got that shut down quickly. But if we don't have people out there that are whistleblowing and letting us know, but you think about it, or some people have grandkids or whatever it may be. And what kid is going to sit there, if you've been a mother, and tell you all about their day at school? I have yet to meet a mother that your kid will sit there and tell you exactly what happened all day at school for 8 hours. You have no idea what your children are being taught. And I guess not everybody can homeschool, but how important communication is with your children when they're ready and when they're open to it, if there's a teachable moment, but really talking about and sort of trying bits and pieces, if you can, of what exactly are you guys talking about in school? Because some of the stuff I'm seeing from different parents, I found out it is scary. White privilege, all kinds of things. One parent just told me that their 16-year-old came home and argued with them about transgender because of what they had learned in school. They had no idea. The mother really had to actually get some full medical, geared to a 16-year-old to be able to prove to them that this is the truth that you're being taught. I don't know, Karen, what do you want to add about that? I know you've got kids.
Yep. And you know what? If I had it to do over again, I would homeschool, because I believe even a poorly done homeschool situation will give them way more information and things they need to know than the best education that's mainstream. That's just my personal opinion. I'm not telling you to pull your kids out, but if it was me, I sure as heck would. I also, I've known a lot of interesting people in my life, and I knew a couple who didn't believe in school. They did not send their kids to school at all. They didn't homeschool them. They didn't do anything. And I never seen such bright kids in my whole life, because instead of that brainwashing, hypnotic, sitting in the seat all day, hand up to go to the bathroom, wait till the bell rings, you get to eat, then you have to do this. And the curriculum is crap. It's just crap. And so we're getting dumber and dumber and dumber as time is going by. And so based on my friend who did no schooling at all, and the results, and she had a lot of flack in the community. Oh my goodness, everybody pointed the finger at them and scapegoated them and targeted them. It was horrible. And I, even at the time, didn't really understand what was going on, but there was no doubt her kids were amazing human beings. Like, for instance, they would never get conned because they knew right away when people were lying, and they had a creative spirit in them, that they weren't afraid to go off and try things. And now we're moving into a time where entrepreneurship is going to be all we have left. Well, they don't teach any of that stuff at school.
Or skills, how to.
Or skills. Like,
Cats,
we used to learn
they
how
don't
to cook and how to do everything at
go
school. We don't.
any kind of skills like that, how to build a fire, how to grow gardening, how to do all that.
Exactly.
They
How to
don't
grow your own food.
They don't teach cursive anymore. Like, they're assuming the internet's going to be around for the rest of your life. And I can tell you right now, I was services for my child when he was growing up. And there was one person in particular, their daughter was 13, and they kept saying to her, you really do need to know how to sign your name at least. And she kept saying, yeah, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Well, they tried to cross the border. And because of the issues that we didn't even touch on human trafficking or anything, but there is.
Mm-hmm.
This 13-year-old had to sign her name on the form to say, yes, this is my mother. Guess what? She couldn't. All she could do was print or put an X. They never got to the border. Now, that's nothing life-threatening, but the thing is, I've seen people on YouTube, like in their early 20s, that somebody will send a little gift and they'll open it on air, that they can't even note because it's in cursive. Like, this is, again, that's not the end all, but it's skills that we will need, that you'll always need. Things like, how do you preserve food? How do you grow food? How many of you out there could say you could start a fire with just a bow drill, no lighter, no nothing? 99% of us, over at least probably in North America, unless you're off the grid or something, probably couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about it. I remember one time I was in another group we used to be involved with, and I said, God forbid, and I'm not talking about today, I'm just saying, God forbid we had an EMP strike, okay? Everything's shut down. You need water. I said, what are the things that are going to be your currency? Water. You got a lighter, it'll be worth a heck of a lot. And I've seen people interview people that have been through stuff like that, like Venezuela with no power. I think Venezuela, Puerto Rico or Venezuela, with power for 3 months. And they interviewed the people. What were the most important things? They said coffee, a lighter, alcohol, believe it or not, because say people need things for pain or antibiotics or what. How some people are addicted to it. Cigarettes. This is all your current.
Whatever you need, yeah.
When I said water, this 20-something-year-old was laughing their butt off at me. And I said, really? They lived in Florida. And I said, you live in Florida? I said, you're surrounded about all kinds of water. I said, can you drink that? All of a sudden they went, no. And I said, so if you can't turn your tap on and you can't go to the grocery store to go get water, what are you going to drink? And all of a sudden it hit home. But these things our kids aren't learning. I'm not saying I learned all of this in school, but I also wasn't spoon-fed everything. And I think that that's why these children you're talking about turned out so individual. They were allowed to be who they were meant to be. They had to learn that if I want to know something, I've got to look it up. And I will tell you, I pulled my youngest out of school. He could have been in school till he was 21 years old. And what I saw, teachers should have been on their best behavior, the element, for 2 hours. And what we saw, if that's what we're seeing when we're here, not another day in that school ever again. And I'd switched numerous schools. It was no different.
I also want to make a point. Dave has posted here that if he had had a basic astrology course when he was young, he would have been able to orient his life better. And the other thing I just want to mention too is I'm not a religious person. I don't put one belief system over another. I draw from all of them. I'm a spiritual person, but I want people to know that our perceptions are so limited. There is all kinds of things all around us that we're not even aware of. Now, of course, most people tend to go to fear in that because of what the clergy has told them. Because let's face it, if we didn't need the churches, boy, that would shake up the order quite a bit. But we have this inside. The way to connect is inside, but we're all have. So it doesn't matter what your belief system is. There are angels, there are positive ETs, there are our higher self. There's shells of who we are on higher levels. There's so much out there, but do ask for help. do ask for
And
help.
give them
Don't try
your
to do it
permission.
all on your own.
Give them your permission too, because they respect your free will, our free will. You don't have to say it out loud. You can say it in the mind's eye or in the mind, but say you want to know who your guides are, your angels, or you want to work more closely. There's ascended masters, there are elementals, there, we can go on and on. There are
Your
so,
grandmother who's passed on,
yes, yes.
on and on and on.
Mhm. Just,
You know, I even knew a guy who needed to do the mechanical work on his car, and he didn't know how. So he prayed to his ancestors, someone who had technical ability to fix a car, and it came through him, and he fixed his car, and he doesn't even know how he did that. And miracles happen all the time, all the time, all the time. You know, but you know, I got to tell you, even me, after I've been on my phone too much, because I do a lot of research on my phone and sharing information with my friends, we're like full-time warriors, right?
we are,
And,
yeah.
and we're juggling this information all the time. There's times where I have to put that phone down and go, I am not picking that phone up.
And
The
I
world
do,
is not going to end by tomorrow. I need a break from it. And then just go and have some meditation, some quiet time. I'm a big fan of a nice salty bath. It's very grounding. If you can't go out in the wintertime to ground on the earth, when you get into a salty bath, what happens is the water, all the plumbing is grounded in wherever you live. So you get into a nice salty bath. Well, the conductivity is fantastic for earthing and grounding. If you can't get outside, there's always the tub. So I'm a big fan of that. Sorry, I'm rambling on and our time is running out. But I just wanted to bring up again about the spirituality, and that can look however you want. Quantum health transformation, once you work your way up to steps 2 and 1, you learn. I also have tips on how to do that.
I was just going to add to that's something that's really important is you do need to take a break. I'm a night hawk, don't sleep a lot. I'd love to sleep more. I sleep when I can, and when I need to, I do. At nighttime, I find it's quieter, so I'm very creative. So I do a lot of meditation when I'm doing resin, whether I'm doing other creative processes. I take the weekends off a lot. That's why I warn people that know me. Mondays are my crazy day. I'm getting caught up usually into Tuesday. So Karen, we've only got a few minutes. We want to tell people all about you, like tell them about your Organite, tell them all about everything so they can find. I know we've been talking about the quantum health program because it's so important, but she has so much stuff out there. So go ahead, Karen.
Okay, I sell orgone generators. Just looking for one quick to grab
I'm so
here.
mad at myself. I'm going to include you guys, I'll put it in the comments. I'll put pictures of them because they're beautiful. And Karen,
This is a little shungite one. It has a copper spiral on one side, and it's got the double Merkaba on the other side. This is just an example. I have different shapes and stuff. But my guides, I was having a really hard time being on the computer. After like even 10 minutes, I get such bad brain fog, I couldn't function. It was my guides that told me about Organite and orgone generators. So basically, I've had different people make them. They're all friends of mine. None of them are made in a sweatshop or slave labor or anything like that. And the styles are fairly unique. I've designed most of them myself. And so they're available also on my website. So if you want to help support my work and also bring in some amazing energy into your environment, I get into that in the quantum health transformation too a bit. But basically, crystals vibrate when they're under pressure. The resin shrinks, puts pressure on the crystals. The crystals actually emit a tone. We can't hear it, but it actually pulls from 0 point energy and then produces the energetic signature of the crystals. So if you like amethyst or if you like green malachite or whatever, and those all correspond with the energy centers that Lorilei was talking about. So anyway, I love them. I sleep with them. I have them all over my house, and I have them under my bed and everywhere.
I never do a reading without yours. I make like a triangle because I have little mini ones now I bought. I am learning how to make them.
Wonderful.
People have been asking me, but I never do a reading without the two that you so graciously sent me. I love them. She sent me one with a skull because anybody that knows me, I love skulls. And then she sent me one with an angel. I love angels. But you guys go support it when you see the beautiful stuff she has on her site and everything else. When's your podcast, Karen, on your show so people know too and where to find that?
Well, they usually come out around supper time on Thursdays, but occasionally I get a guest who that time doesn't fit them, so I may do it a day later. So they will come out on a Friday evening, but generally they're out on a Thursday evening. And I'm also producing some other independent podcasts about my ET experiences, and my life is very magical and very interesting. So you never know what you're going to get. So yeah, check out
I have one quick question for you. Sure, Dave, you got to ask a big question just before we're going off air. He wants to know why you choose copper. I use copper too, but tell him, Karen.
Well, because it's a lot cheaper than gold and it's very conductive. And so what the metal bits do is they disperse the energy throughout the shape, because the shape, like even a pyramid, actually will concentrate and amplify energy. They're very well thought out. I got to tell you, I've put a lot of energy into them and figuring out how to make them just right. So, but I gotta warn you, there's imitators out there. You know, I used to have a shop on Etsy. Etsy stole my brand name. My brand name is Zen Domes Organite. They stole the name and they use it as a category. And so now when people type in Zen Domes Organite, they don't get me, they get Etsy. And it's very discouraging, but what the heck? If you're meant to have one, you'll have one.
You will. And most of you are my friends. Jeannie, I think you are. If you're not, feel free to send me a friend request. I'll hook you up with Karen because she said she'd like to listen to your podcast. Most of Karen's links are, I always put my guest links on my Facebook and everywhere else anyway, so people can connect. I want to thank Karen for being here. I will have her back because we do a lot together off the air, and we just said she's had me times on her podcast. I said, God, you got to come back on. So what I want to tell you guys is feel free to watch me next Monday on the Angel Rock here from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. to 10 Central. And I want to say who it is next week. And I think I know what it is, but I don't want to make a mistake. So you're just going to have to tune in. I don't want to say the wrong person. I've been booking so many people. I'm usually booked about 2 months in advance. So we will be here next week, guys. Karen, again, thank you so much. Love you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I love you so much. I love your show. And thank you so much for having me on anytime.
And I want to thank everybody here. Without you guys, we wouldn't have to. So thank you so much. And I wish you a beautiful morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you may be. You're listening on the podcast as well. Okay. See you next week, guys. Have a good one.